Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a Saturday night watching indoors on a very cold evening. And just look behind me here tonight at this map. By early next week, every state you see there covered in purple will see temperatures at or well below freezing. Tonight, this winter storm has become deadly from the Midwest all the way to the East Coast in Nebraska. Look at this. You can see the light there streaming through the burned-out windows of a building that caught fire. Firefighters there battling the blaze and the frigid temperatures. All the way east tonight into Vernon, Connecticut, a man bundled up, nearly hidden by the snow. He's trying to clear away there. And for as cold as it is, it's about to get worse.
Snowstorm overnight tonight and through tomorrow. Going to produce some heavy snow in spots, about 3 inches in Kansas City, half a foot in St. Louis. Chicago, already a foot to a foot and a half on the ground, an additional 8 inches there and 10 inches around Grand Rapids. This is the leading edge of a very cold air mass that's settling in. So behind the snowstorm, some of the coldest air we have seen in decades. These are high temperatures. In Fargo, 17 and 19 below. Minneapolis, 11 and 15 below. In Chicago, 12 below for a high temperature Monday afternoon.
But when you see 15 below in Minneapolis on Monday, you got to wonder, is that a record?
It's very close to an all-time record low high temperature in Minneapolis. This is cold that hasn't been seen.
It's about to get even colder again in much of the eastern half of the country. A new Arctic air mass, the coldest of the season, is hitting the Midwest and Northeast, bringing high winds and dangerously low temperatures. The cold follows heavy snow and ice, whiteout conditions that caused accidents from Michigan to Kentucky this weekend. Almost 1,000 flights were canceled nationwide, another 5,000 delayed. This frigid weather continues to put a strain on propane gas supplies, forcing more than 30 states to issue emergency declarations. And a big pipeline explosion in Canada has cut off the natural gas supply to several thousand people. It happened not far from the border with North Dakota and Minnesota, and some customers in those states were asked to limit their gas usage. For more on the cold wave, we're joined now by Weather Channel meteorologist Kim Cunningham. Kim, good evening.
Hey, Lester, and yes, it looks like we'll continue to see that cold air coming southward over the next couple days. The next big storm coming southward will affect even the south. Let's go ahead and show you what it looks like, the pattern right now, where we still have that deep trough over the east. And look at Minneapolis tomorrow, 6 below zero. We're talking 30 degrees below your average. Chicago, we may go 60 hours or 2.5 days with temperatures not even getting above zero. That's how cold this is. Atlanta will be in the 30s today. We got near 60 degrees. Big temperature change for us all the way in the deep south. New York City, Philadelphia, lows back to the single digits and teens over the next couple of days as well. Well below average. Now in the south, this is going to be wintry weather for us. Area of low pressure moves by. The front comes through, cold air in place. And look at this forecast. Freezing rain, possibly power outages, Savannah, Charleston, and even accumulating snow, 3 to 5 inches possible from the Outer Banks to central parts of Georgia. Lester, back to you.
All right, Kim Cunningham.
James County, Portland at that number. Tonight we'll drop to about 5 below at 9, -8 at midnight, and then 12 below tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. 1982 still holds the market 29.5. But our 28.5 this year has jumped into second place. These were the top 3 coming into this January. And it's not out of the question that this ends up taking over for 1982 as the snowiest January of all time.
This is the battle millions are facing across a frozen Midwest. Blowing snow and dangerous whiteout conditions are shutting down roads, making cars just disappear. In Kankakee, Illinois, this bus sliding right off the road. In parts of Colorado, pile up after pile up. 27 states are coping with brutal, dangerous wind chills tonight. In Chicago, the public schools' 400,000 students told to stay home today and tomorrow. Across Minnesota, schools closed due to plunging temperatures. Snow-covered Minneapolis feels like 26 below zero.
Won't like it.
In rural Minnesota, the propane that Ron Selleck expected would keep his house warm until March nearly finished Friday.
She's a mean winter.
His home down to 40 degrees at one point, relying on layers, space heaters, and an electric blanket just to survive. That electric blanket maybe saved you think, a couple nights?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
He's one of millions of Americans who rely on propane to stay warm. Facing a nationwide shortage and surging prices, he had to turn to the Salvation Army to help him buy fuel. Last month, how much were you paying a gallon?
It was $2.39.
$2.39. This month?
$4.89.
Another big problem, the relentless snow. Indianapolis on track to have the snowiest January since the Civil War. In Chicago, 4 feet of snow since November, more than the city usually gets all season. In Alaska, above average temperatures are the problem, triggering this massive avalanche, blocking the only road that leads to the town of Valdez. Food is being shipped to the town by barge. The snow, ice, and cold in the Midwest now moving south. In Alabama, they're salting roads and preparing for the worst.
We're not geared up to do 1,000 miles of roads if they ice up. We just have to close the road.
And that ice still a big concern here in the Midwest. It seems to be just about everywhere. We're actually standing near Minnehaha Falls here in Minneapolis, and as you can see, Diane, tonight,
Bulk of the snow is always going to be coming in tonight into early tomorrow, and I still think that's going to be the case. And as it comes in, the winds will be picking up. So blowing and drifting a real concern for us both tonight and early Wednesday. There is a winter storm warning in place for all of our area right through the day tomorrow. It goes until 4 o'clock Wednesday afternoon, not only because most of us are likely to see 6 to 10 inches, but because we're going to see that blowing and drifting. To our south in southern and maybe even central Indiana, some ice concerns, a wintry mix, but I think most of us again are in that 6 to 10 inch range. Might see a hair more in some of our southern counties, and then north, places like Chicago and Detroit, a little more likely to be in that 3 to 6 inch range. So the further north you are, the more likely it is you'll see some meager totals. The further south you are, the more likely it is you're going to be on the high end of some of these snow totals that we're expecting. Things aren't going to change a whole lot in terms of the snow. Should just slowly taper off through the day Wednesday, but a big change in terms of the cold air. 8 and 9 for Thursday and Friday, and look at these overnight lows going back below zero. Even by tomorrow night, we're close to zero, and then by the weekend, yet another shot for accumulating snow.
February 17th. More snow, more wind. What a winter. Relentless. The morning of March 12th.
there he is. Bless his heart.
Approaching record level.
We see 2 trucks in the ditch. One was belly up, and I've seen a lot of people fishtailing a little bit.
Bone chilling, I'd say. It's pretty cool.
I think we're going to have some slick conditions for quite a while.
Near record-breaking snowfall that resulted in major overtime for road crews and utility workers. Water main breaks, busted pipes, soaring energy bills, almost 2 weeks of no school. These are just some of the problems we faced as the toughest winter ever hit the Fort Wayne area. How much did it impact us financially, and how much longer will we be paying for it? I'm Tara Brantley. For the next 30 minutes, join me for an in-depth analysis as we look at how Fort Wayne was impacted by the toughest winter ever. First, we'll take a closer look at just how the city responded to the weather. You'll hear from Fort Wayne Public Works spokesman Frank Suarez, and we'll take a closer look at all the resources that went into keeping the roads clear. We'll then turn our attention to the schools. We have a breakdown of all the days that students missed. And I'll talk with Superintendent Glenda Ritz about some of the challenges the snow and ice created. Of course, you can't talk about the worst winter ever without looking back at the great blizzard of 1978. See how this winter stacks up and get a look at the historic event. Finally, we'll sit down with WANE TV's chief meteorologist, Nicholas Ferreri, and discuss just how rare a winter like this actually is. Since we first got hit with that major winter blast on January 5th that dropped more than a foot of snow on the ground, Fort Wayne has been paying the price for cleanup. Add in a few more storms, and the amount has really soared. With me now to delve into the impact of all of this is Fort Wayne Public Works spokesman Frank Suarez and a city worker who has been plowing for 16 years, Lawrence Carter. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining me. Okay, Lawrence, let's start with you. Describe for me just how rough it has been plowing the streets.
Well, it's been pretty tough. You know, after a while, you get a decent amount of snow on the ground, and citizens tend to park off the curb, and kind of raises our chances of having accidents up. It's kind of hard to get down the streets, and then we start to work long hours, and it's pretty tough out there.
You say long hours. How much time have you spent plowing and salting?
It varies on any given day. It goes from anywhere from 12 hours to 16 hours during Sunday through Thursday, and on Friday, Saturday, and Saturday we may work 18 hours a day. So it's pretty long hours during the week.
Yeah, you put in a lot of time, to say the least. Okay, Frank, plow drivers, not the only ones, of course, affected with all the overtime. Give us an idea just about the overall impact of other areas that were impacted.
Well, certainly we had a lot of people working. Not only our street department, but our utilities were very busy. We had a lot of water main breaks. I believe that overtime in the first 6 weeks of this year for the crews that were fixing water main breaks and also helping in plowing some alleys as well. As you remember, we still had to pick up garbage. Has been close to about $100,000 just in water main breaks.
How much overtime cost did the city incur?
Well, right now the numbers are still coming in, but we're estimating between what was spent with utilities as well as the investment of the street department and the number of hours that they were spending, which was every single day, as you know, out not only salting but plowing, and then out repairing potholes as well, as they've been creeping up all over the place. Along with the amount of extra salt that we had to purchase this year, we're estimating it's going to be in excess of just over $1 million.
You said repairing potholes. We also had to repair water main breaks as well. A tremendous amount of time and effort going into that. Tell us about that.
We've had, in the first 6 weeks of this year, close to about 140 water main breaks, and that is certainly a very significant number when you consider that we were just at 370 for all of 2013. So we are looking at a large number of water main breaks. The freeze line crews tell me, is well below ground level, and in some cases they're finding that it's 2.5 or 3 feet deep. It was certainly during those very cold days that we had, and it's still very difficult to dig into the ground.
Yeah. So Frank, Lawrence, would you both agree this has been the toughest winter ever?
It's been the toughest winter for me at the city. Yes, it has.
Frank?
It's been extremely busy, and we know that it's taxed everyone. Certainly homeowners have experienced a lot. Schools have experienced a lot of challenges. Businesses, it's impacted all of us, yes.
Okay. Lawrence Carter, Frank Suarez, thank you both for joining us. So road crews think this was the worst winter ever, but when you take a closer look at some of the numbers, you can truly see just how bad it was. Meteorological winter runs from December 1st through February 28th. That is a total of 90 days. During those 90 days, there was at least a trace of snow for 64. That means 71% of the days this winter, snow fell. Making things even worse, there was a trace of snow every single weekend. As far as a snow total, we ended up getting 59.4 inches. That is only 1.7 inches off the all-time record for Fort Wayne, which was set back in the winter of 1981-82. Now, with that much snow falling, crews went through a lot of resources to keep the roads clear. According to a city spokesperson, last year, the city used 6,000 tons of salt. That works out to 1.2 million pounds at a cost of about $600,000. Now, take a look at this. This winter, the city used more than 3 times that amount. Crews tore through a whopping 20,000 tons, which is about 40 million pounds of salt. That salt, combined with other chemicals used to treat the streets, cost more than $1.3 million. Salt truck drivers weren't the only ones working overtime either. The city's 311 service has been slammed with calls. Last year, the city got just over 10,000 calls during the month of February. This year, that number soared to well over 18,000. That is nearly the same amount of calls that came in after last June's severe storms. Another area that has been heavily impacted are schools. Coming up after the break, Fort Wayne Community School Superintendent Dr. Wendy Robinson and State Superintendent Dr. Glenda Ritz. Hear how districts are trying to make up for almost 2 weeks of snow days and how the toughest winter ever has impacted the I-Step.
Get into
Reed was diagnosed with a learning
blizzard, even 36 years later, is still one of the most significant winter events ever to hit Northeast Indiana. The storm hit the area hard, bringing most of the city to a standstill. But how does it measure up to some of the weather we experienced this winter? The blizzard hit Fort Wayne January 25th, 1978. Over the next 24 hours, the storm dropped more than 10 inches of snow in a 24-hour period. The temperature dropped to 4 degrees and winds wailed up to 55 miles per hour. That dropped the wind chill to negative 25 degrees. As for this winter season, Fort Wayne had 2 different snowstorms drop greater than 6 inches of snow in a single day, one of only 4 winters for that to ever happen. We had the most snow we have ever had in January and the snowiest month ever, with 30.3 inches of snow falling in the first month of 2014. February ranked as the 3rd snowiest ever with 19.2 inches of snow. So with all of that and wind chills down to negative 43 degrees in January, we had numerous problems with everything from potholes to frozen pipes and even roofs collapsing.